Hey guys, Hens here, back with a bit of a different video. We are going to be reacting today to Watch Mojo's top 20 Dead by Daylight killers. This is a new tier list from Watch Mojo. If you didn't know, they did one back in 2021. There were some abstruse things in there that were absolutely funny. And yeah, there's an updated version. And I want to react to this one today. People have told me there's some insane things in here, but we'll see. Let's see how it goes. Xenomorph, okay.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 most fun and creatively designed killers to play as
fun and creatively
Dead by
designed.
Daylight.
This is not about strength. Interesting. Stronger again.
Number 20, Vecna,
okay.
aka the Lich.
So there's 37 in total, so we are slightly below average, just to give a little bit of context. This is one of the newest killers in the game from Dungeons and Dragons.
The big bad of Dungeons and Dragons comes with a weapon wheel loaded up with some handy spells that allow him to maintain control of a chase and even find survivors. Well, to some degree at least.
Oh, that's not how you use that ability though. Oh, that's how you use it. Well done, actually. Wow.
The Dispelling Sphere will give an idea of where survivors are while temporarily neutralizing whatever magical items they may be wielding. Mage Hand is a great way to deny survivors of a pallet drop or even vault one if you throw them off guard. Fly can also help Vecna maintain a decent control across large distances while potentially giving him some value in distance-based perks like Make Your Choice. As for his fourth spell, Flight of the Damned, it's way too slow to start up and easy for survivors to dodge, which is what gets him slapped onto the bottom of this list.
Okay, the reason why that is because you're not using it correctly. So you did it good earlier against the Kate, you landed the skeletons on top of her, and she couldn't have dodged possibly. So you need like a lot of precision when using this power. That's how the power is used, and that's how you get the most out of it. So it's really hard for beginners, but Flight of the Damned is actually the most useful spell he has. But I guess if you're new, you might not be able to see it that way.
Number 19, the Oni.
I would say Oni is a lot more well-designed and fun, to be honest, than number 19, but that's my opinion.
Kazan Yamaoka imposes an intimidating presence on those who haven't gone against him enough times. The thing about the Oni is that he greatly benefits from keeping survivors injured, as they can drop blood orbs that can eventually activate his unique killer power, Yamaoka's Wrath. When activated, the Oni can temporarily utilize two new abilities to quickly hunt and down survivors. Demon Dash will help him traverse long distances and possibly ambush unsuspecting survivors, while a charged Demon Strike will down even healthy survivors in a single hit.
Okay, so first of all, both of them are actually insta-down. So yeah, you kind of don't want a Demon Strike around. Demon Strike is one thing if someone's really close to you and it's not worth dashing to, but more often than not you're going to dash, and the dash actually insta-downs. So you can just swing out of the dash. It's not just for mobility, it's actually also the lethality.
Only problem is that both of the Oni's abilities can be a little tricky to utilize. How many times have we gotten stuck on a small rock or an awkwardly placed pile of garbage? Too many times to count, and it can quickly hinder any Oni player.
That is correct. It takes some time. Oh, this is so dark. Damn.
Number 18, the Nurse.
Oh my god. Nurse on most fun and unique designs. Actually bottom of the barrel in my opinion.
When trying to escape the Nurse, survivors may have an incredibly hard time avoiding her attacks. The Nurse can blink across short distances, making her movement seem unpredictable. Your only means of defense is to try and play mind games with her and make her blink in the wrong direction. Well, for a killer that sounds this oppressive, why is she only at number 18?
Jolt is M1 attacks only, Nurse is a special attack now. So you'll never activate this perk on Nurse, ever. There's no point in using it. Bit of a nuke drop for sure.
Whereas PC players might get a grasp on the Nurse quickly, the same cannot be said for console players or those who prefer using a controller over mouse and keyboard.
I think it's actually not that much of a difference. So you need to grasp Nurse, that's hard. That takes time for PC or controller. But actually, you need to plan a little bit ahead on controller and you can't flick as much. But yeah, if you know where you're blinking, then you'll be doing relatively well on both platforms. Obviously, mouse and keyboard is a tiny bit better, but for a beginner, it's more about like grasping where am I going to land with this blink, and that's just muscle memory.
When used by that half of the player base, the nurse can feel a tad awkward and clunky to control, and her slow movement speed does not help. Fun killer, but man, she requires a ton of patience to get a hang of. Number 17, Pyramid Head.
Pyramid Head, okay,
aka the Executioner.
Yeah, that seems about right.
We'll admit that at the time of this video, most of Pyramid Head's add-ons are pretty useless. Even so, his power gives him some level of control and surveillance of the map. Pyramid Head can leave behind trails that inflict torment on any survivors who carelessly pass through them unless they're crouch walking.
I mean, you're not gonna catch survivors off guard. That's not really surveillance.
Should a survivor go down while inflicted with torment, Pyramid Head gets the opportunity to send them to the Cage of Atonement, which is basically an instant hook at the expense of not knowing where the survivor is imprisoned. Now, if said survivor
that is not true. It will always choose the spawn point the farthest away from you. So if you have a rough idea of the shape of the map, which the generator always will really help with, then you can kind of like triangulate what is the farthest point away and go there. Because more often than not, it's going to be the farthest point away on the map where the survivor lands. So if you know that, then it's actually not that hard to predict where the survivor is going to end up and go there, which is pretty decent. But yeah, once you know that,
Death Hook
it's pretty easy to use the cages.
Well, they could be subjected to a quick and unceremonious exit. Yeah, Pyramid Head does have the potential to end games fast, but that's if everyone is playing too recklessly and if the player is placing trails in good spots. Here's hope.
To be honest, placing trails is not a thing you should like waste much time with on Pyramid Head, to be honest. It's not very important, and it slows you down, and you will be better off just using it while you're looping the survivor and making sure if they stay on the loop, they're gonna get tormented, right? You can pre-torment pallets, not the worst thing in the world, but I would be careful because more often than not, you're just wasting your time in the long run. That's not worth it at all.
Hoping those add-ons soon buff him just a tad more.
True. Hopefully the add-ons are gonna get better. That would be cool. Oh, he's using Franklin's Weave. And someone Deceit. Damn.
Number 16, Leatherface, aka the Cannibal.
Love myself some Baba. Jolt on Baba. Homie really likes Jolt. Don't change that.
The second you see a Bubba in your game, you know this is going to go one of two ways. Either you're about to be in one of the longest chases you've ever been in, or you're about to have one of the shortest games you've ever played. Old Leatherface can use his trusty chainsaw to down survivors regardless of what health state they're in. This has led many Bubba players to come up with utterly oppressive builds like Basement Bubba that can potentially end games before half of the gens are finished.
Okay, I don't know if I would call Basement Bubba oppressive. It's definitely a gimmick that works pretty well. He can camp well. That's just how it works. Don't die in the basement. Oppressive might be the wrong word though. Oh, my bad.
However, missing a chainsaw sweep could cost you time in a chase or straight up lose a survivor if you wind up in a tantrum. And trust us, that collision can be unforgiving
Actually
sometimes.
got a lot better now. A lot better since the re-rock. I know all this footage is. Can't go just run into the wall.
Number 15, The Unknown.
Okay, I'll be honest. For me, number 1 would probably be The Unknown. This is number 15. I'm not sure why. Let's see. He's playing Adept. Good hit.
The Unknown is a parasitic being that can leave behind husks and teleport to them to catch survivors off guard. The only way survivors are able to limit its mobility is by carefully approaching these husks and interacting with them. This can leave them vulnerable for quite some time while allowing the Unknown to land free hits.
True. Like, if you teleport on them, they become weakened too. So there's a lot of interactivity there to be found, which is super cool, which is why I like Unknown so much. Because as a survivor, you kind of want to get rid of the hallucinations, but you also need to not make it obvious, because if you teleport back as you're getting rid of them, you're going to be weakened, you're going to get unwanted, and you're probably going to go down.
There is another attack the Unknown has access to, the UVX projectile.
Yeah.
Though it can potentially damage survivors already inflicted by its weakness effect, landing these shots can be somewhat cumbersome as the projectile always bounces off the first surface it makes contact with. Yeah, you can make some incredible plays with it, but in some situations, its collision detection can make it a bit frustrating to use. Still, it does make the unknown an extremely versatile killer.
I mean, it's not easy to use, for sure, but there's a lot of things to learn with him, a lot of things to master, if that's your kind of playstyle, and that's what I consider. I mean, he's very unique, and he's fun. For me, he would definitely be number 1, not anywhere near the
Number
bottom.
14, Albert Wesker.
Oh, I think Wesker would probably be my number 2. Also incredibly unique. Cool killer. There's so much to master. No!
AKA the Mastermind.
Oh, he's playing terror with this build.
It is important to note that Wesker is a killer with a bit of a learning curve. Though he can grab and either slam or toss survivors like mere toys, controlling his dash attack requires a mix of precision and unpredictability. Your victims will try to juke you into going a completely different path, which might be frustrating. However, Wesker comes with plenty of benefits in his toolkit. Of all the killers in the game, he moves the fastest and has a rather sizable terror radius, which can create...
Alright, so Wesker absolutely doesn't move it the fastest, I'm pretty sure. I think the fastest killer... Oh, I think it's Dredge, right? I'm not sure. I mean, Blight is definitely faster. There are a lot of killers who are faster.
Plenty of opportunities for you to get the jump on survivors. And once you start landing those dash attacks, you can become a truly oppressive force. It also helps when you tack on perks that further increase Wesker's terror radius and affect skill checks, all of which will keep your opponents guessing where you might be on the map.
Let's finish this.
Number 13, the Pig.
Okay. Pig, fun and unique powers. I feel like Pig is a bit outdated. That's a bit of a weird one, to be honest.
Poor Amanda can be an easy killer to bully when Swifts use certain builds, but in a normal game she can be just as dirty. The Pig can crouch and become undetectable on the fly, which can make her tough to spot in grassy or plant-filled realms like
it's such a gimmick though. Don't rely on
Backwater Swamp or Grave of Glenvale. But what really can hamper survivors from finishing gens and possibly escaping are the reverse bear traps.
It's like a slowdown, but you cannot rely on it. You're not going to kill people with
the
bear
Pig can
traps.
place these on the heads of downed survivors, and when a gen is completed, the trap's timer activates. Should a survivor fail to find the right key in one of the jigsaw boxes spawned around the map, well, suddenly it's not so fun wearing a hat the whole game now.
Yeah.
Is it?
I mean, in theory, you can kill people with Peg, but the theory is only theory. In practice, you will almost never actually have people die unless you harass them so much that the other survivors have time to do the generators. So it's like, kind of like, yeah, you get some slowdown. Sure, it's not bad. The ambush attack is pretty decent now, but it's not the best. The stealth is, I don't know, it exists. It's not that good. Yeah, but I would not say that she's a unique and fun killer. I mean...
Number 12, the Hillbilly.
This is an older killer, right? This is a little bit outdated. You can tell that Pig was one of the first killers.
Since we did our original list way back in 2021, the Hillbilly has seen a pretty substantial change in how he plays. While he still has access to his chainsaw sprint to rush towards unsuspecting survivors, his reworked overdrive mechanic now gives him some benefits to overusing the chainsaw. At the expense of a slight increase to charging up for a sprint, the Hillbilly gets a reduced cooldown on sprints and an increase in movement speed during a sprint. Basically, you'll find some ways to down a survivor from halfway across the map. Just keep in mind any potential small tiles getting in your way, because the gods of collision can be ruthless.
Overdrive means reduced charge on, not more. Sorry, I got that wrong. That's okay. We're gonna get a cuff. Oh,
Number 11. Dracula,
okay.
aka the Dark Lord.
Okay. I mean, I don't know.
Castlevania has finally made its way into Dead by Daylight, and Dracula has quickly cemented himself as one of the most fun killers to play in the game. With his Pillars of Hellfire, he can injure or down survivors from across small tiles, or even cause pillars to spawn around him or the exit gate, depending on what add-ons are being used, of course.
I guess.
But his most important powers are his shape-shifting abilities. As a swarm of bats, Dracula can teleport to various windows and dropped pallets to possibly flank survivors. As for his wolf form, he can find survivors more easily as scratch marks form closer together and in a more linear fashion. Honestly...
Wait, I don't think that's actually true. I'm pretty sure for Dracula, they make the blood splatters be brighter, but I don't think actually it affects scratch marks at all, so I think he got that one wrong. Yeah, and bad form obviously cannot see survivors, which is pretty huge, which wasn't
You'll
mentioned.
feel just as unstoppable as he was back in the NES days.
He's pretty strong right now. Definitely one of the strongest killers. Also, not that easy to use, but yeah.
Number 10, the Nemesis.
Okay, Nemesis is so high up. Interesting. Actually,
although Wesker's dash attacks can be tough but satisfying to land, Nemesis brings a whole other sinister game to Dead by Daylight. Nemi can power up his tentacle strikes by hitting survivors with them, eventually letting him break pallets and extend his reach. However, the most satisfying aspect of his kit are the zombies.
Most satisfying, most frustrating maybe. That's actually interesting. I think most Nemesis players would disagree with that.
Shortly after the match begins, 2 zombies will spawn in and begin wandering around looking for survivors.
Yeah, if they don't
in some circumstances, this can potentially let you force players between a rock and a hard place, making them choose between taking a hit from you, the zombie, or risking a hit from both of you simultaneously and getting downed instantly. The zombies can lead to some hilarious moments and chases, and it's why Nemesis is our preferred killer between the 2 Resident Evil reps.
That's crazy. So zombies oftentimes get stuck, by the way, on the map. And if they do, then you actually need to kill them. They will not do anything until the rest of the match, unless you go there and end them, which is really, really, really annoying as a Nemesis player. Because if you see a zombie be on the other side of the map, not doing anything, then you either have the choice of like continuing your chase, or you go all the way over there and you kill your zombie. But that's just time waste. It's not really worth it. So that's really frustrating. And I don't know, maybe he just didn't play enough Nemesis. Maybe he played on a good patch. Interesting opinions. But like saying Nemesis is more fun and more unique design than Wesker, kind of a crazy take, I won't lie. But I guess Nemesis was a pretty unique mechanic. So there can be fun moments for zombies.
Number 9, the Dredge. Lockers were once an almost guaranteed safe haven to keep killers from finding you. But if you notice lockers having locks on them, congratulations! You have found yourself in a game with the Dredge. This blob of flesh and darkness uses lockers to teleport to various areas of the map, and if he teleports to a locker you're hiding in, you'll be instantly grabbed and ready to be hooked. What makes him more troublesome is the Nightfall mechanic. Every time the Dredge teleports or injures or hooks survivors, Nightfall gets closer to activation. Once it reaches full charge, survivors are suddenly shrouded in almost complete darkness while being much more visually prominent in the Dredge's vision. Mobility and temporary periods of explicit info are what make the Dredge a real monster in this game.
The thing about the Dredge that is like mildly frustrating is like this is actually a really good example. He's on Preschool right now, a map where there are only lockers inside the houses. There are none outside, and there are no tiles on this map, so there's no jungle gym, nothing. So you will not have lockers anywhere. You will not have your mobility unless you want to go into the houses themselves. And also the Remnant, placing it on loops can sometimes not really do much because the survivor can just leave the loop. And if you go to the next loop, then you're back at square zero. And if you continuously can do that, then your power is not worth much. And that's like the problem that Dredge has, which is why I wouldn't have him anywhere near this high. But I guess Nightfall is pretty satisfying. I can see that.
Number 8, the Plague.
That is really high for Plague. It's also one of the older killers in the Daylight. That's like
Leaning a bit more towards body horror in this corner of DBD, the Plague is one of the most difficult killers to go up against. The big reason for this is her unique power, Vile Purge. By vomiting onto survivors, and doing so extensively and excessively, the Plague can force players into an injured state while
Wait, isn't Vile Purge the red one? And Corrupt Purge is the green one? I think it's a tiny bit of a mistake, but that's
inflicting broken, preventing them from healing and forcing them to seek out one of the pools of devotion. Should a survivor ignore infection and proceed to interact with gens, pallets, and teammates, the infection can wind up infecting fellow survivors.
Vile Purge is green, yeah. Damn, I don't even know that after 11 kills.
This is where survivors must choose between staying infected and injured for a majority of the game or curing themselves. If a survivor cures themselves at a pool of devotion, the Plague can go to the pool, ingest the corruption, and turn her Vile Purge into a projectile that directly injures players just as a regular hit would. The second you hear those mystical chants, run.
True. Strong.
Number 7. The Ghost Face.
Oh yeah, Ghost Face. The Ghost Face is good. I don't know if I would have Plague that high, but yeah. Ghost Face next. Love Ghost Face. Big fan. I think it's a really good design too, yeah.
Sometimes you may stumble upon a ghost face that just wants to be goofy and have fun with survivors.
No, they're trolling.
Serious ghost face players, they're a different beast altogether. No. Ghostface is all about hiding from survivors and stalking them until they are fully marked. Upon fully marking a survivor, that player is oblivious to Ghostface's whereabouts and is able to be downed in a single strike.
Strong hits. The bottom G, bro. Let's go.
In some instances, expert Ghostface players can mark survivors while chasing them, but that requires some finesse and looping around a strong tile, all while hoping another survivor doesn't out you.
Actually, it's actually not that hard. If you know how to lean and how to do it fast, just barely looking at an obstacle, and if you can lean out to left or right, then the game will detect that and lean you out. So if you can do that, that's relatively easy. Ghostface is the actually true stealth killer of Dead by Daylight. In his gameplay, what you should do is you should always stealth, try to surprise survivors, mark them, and down them, which is really cool because no matter what level you play Ghostface at, if you're a pro, if you're a beginner, you're always going to do the same thing, and you want to sneak, you want to surprise survivors, which I find beautiful because not many killers stay true to their intended design. And in this case, he does, by being relatively simple and relatively weak. I think I like him a lot, so for me, unique and fun.
Ghostface is one of those killers you can get a grasp on quickly,
relatively simple,
will demand some time to truly master and get the jump on survivors.
Easy to learn how to master.
Number 6, the Huntress.
Most popular killer in the game. Has to have something right?
If you watch any DBD streamers or YouTubers, you may have come across the occasional Huntress compilation where players are nailing hatchet throws from ridiculously long distances. That's pretty much why we regard the Huntress so highly when looking at the most fun killers. Landing hits with a hatchet lob can be satisfying in short distance chases, even when the chase boils down to playing mind games around a tile. But on the off chance that you try to lob a hatchet from halfway across the map and suddenly hear it hit, holy crap, you will wind up laughing your way to the gen. And the hook. Fun for you, not so much for the survivors. Not with that wonky collision detection, of course.
Yeah, Hunter's not that fun to play against, I agree.
Number 5.
Lots of camping.
The Doctor.
What? Okay, I don't know about this one. Having Doctor that high doesn't make sense to me.
Are you hearing blomps, zaps, a whole lot of screaming? Yep, you're trapped in a game with the Doctor. Thanks to the powers of his overcooked mind, the Doctor is capable of harnessing concentrated electricity in a small area in front of him. Briefly frying survivors will cause them to scream and temporarily prevent them from vaulting windows and dropping pallets.
Interesting.
Add-ons can make his zaps even more distressing, as they may cause survivors to start hearing the Doc's terror radius music, see visions of him, or even be cast in the light of his red stain. Depending on their madness level, players may even see bizarre skill checks that can further hinder their progress in healing or repairing gens. Hey, slap a bunch of perks on Doctor that cause survivors to scream even more, and you'll have a real party happening.
Well, I guess he's a Doctor fan. I don't know if I would have him that high, to be honest.
Number 4, Michael Myers, aka The Shape.
Okay, I'll be honest. That's a crazy placement. I think Michael Myers is one of the poorly aged characters in the game. He feels really old. He feels outdated. It doesn't really make much sense anymore. And he doesn't stay true to his premise at all. You shouldn't stalk survivors from far away because there's a range penalty. And if you do that, and if you kind of have like a sneaky angle on a survivor that's far away, it's going to take you forever to tee up. You'll be better off running into their face and pressing them to stalk them. But it's not really stalking, but this is how it works.
In all honesty, Michael Myers can be one of the hardest killers to play as. This is because his power, Evil Within, requires you to stalk survivors in order to efficiently down and sacrifice them. This means you may lose out on 2 or 3 gens before you can make it to maximum Evil Within. Achieve this, and Michael can down survivors instantly for a certain period of time. Certain add-ons can even let him grab a survivor while their back is turned towards him and kill them instantly.
He's using Tombstone. Strong hit.
But that alone is what makes Michael fun to play with.
Look at that, he's running in the face.
all over again.
Yeah, this is exactly what I mean.
This time, we get to become pure evil.
No, you're not being Halloween. You're running into their face and pressing stalk. That's not the same. In Halloween, he's like being sneaky. He's like, no, that's not the same. I'm sorry. Like, that's not how any of this works. Strong mech. Why is Michael so high up though?
Number 3.
That's crazy.
The Xenomorph.
What? I don't know about that one. Xenomorph is also... I don't know, it's a cool...
If you want to play a killer that is truly devious, then the Xenomorph is one of the best to play as. Through the use of crawl spaces and a tunnel system, the Xenomorph can cover a lot of ground and even detect survivors' footsteps when they're running on the surface. Not only that, but you'll also be notified of a survivor's presence if they're close enough to the tunnel you're exiting from. But what truly makes the Xenomorph one of DBD's most satisfying killers to play with is its long-ranged tail attack. With its tail, the Xenomorph can injure survivors from the other side of some tiles or objects, and even pallets.
Okay, he says that while getting burnt out of his power, and he can't use his tail attack anymore. So like, Xenomorph, I think, is one of the killers. The concept sounds really cool. The tunnels are cool. It looks cool. You can detect people. And yeah, well, but like when you play him a bit more, it kind of crumbles down a lot. And one of the massive reasons for that is the flame turrets. Because the flame turrets kind of counter you entirely. They counter everything you do. Survivors will hear you approach, so they will pre-run you because the flame turret has a range indicator. And they beep very loud if you're close, and survivors will pre-run you. You have to destroy the turrets and the survivor will get even more distance. You're not getting anywhere close to them. Effectively, you're playing against flame turrets, not against survivors. If they don't counter you that way, then you're gonna have an easy game. But yeah, your satisfying power can be completely denied by the survivors. And it doesn't feel good at all. And that's why I think like he's one of the killers that is really fun, but like in practice, things just break down a little bit.
As long as you watch out for the flamethrower turrets that can hinder your speed, no survivor will ever escape your fury.
Okay. Tail attack is satisfying.
Number 2, Chucky, aka the good guy.
Nah, that's crazy. I mean, he's the passing killer, I guess. He's the first one. That is unique about him.
Chucky used to be one of DBD's most oppressive killers until behavior nerfed him and reworked his power a bit.
What?
While in Hidey Ho mode, Chucky becomes...
Okay, so his power actually became a lot stronger. His cooldown went from 17 to 10 seconds. That is quick math, like 35% slower cooldown. That is kind of nuts. And yeah, you can't scamper the pallets anymore, but the lower cooldown is so worth it anyway. He's a lot stronger now. I guess for beginners, he's a little bit harder, so I can see that. And his viewpoints seem to be a lot more on the casual side.
Undetectable as survivors hear footsteps from various directions. Hidey Ho mode also grants you access to a dash attack that can be tough to land, but nail the hit and you may gain the upper hand in the chase early on. Of course, the best part of Chucky isn't the sneaky sucker stabs or the general creative approach and how behavior managed to make him playable in the first place. No, it's the simple fact that Chucky will verbally assault survivors relentlessly.
Okay, I guess it's pretty cool at first. It's pretty unique. He's very talkative, but it kind of gets old after 2
land
games.
a hit.
But here we go. You know, she might have him crazy damage. Oh,
crazy
here we
damage.
go. Speaking of the other newbie.
Oh my god.
Down a survivor, hook them, off them. Chucky has an insult for everything, and it makes every game hilarious.
I feel like, I swear, after 3 games you don't say that anymore. I guess it's pretty funny at first.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
I don't know what the bell though.
You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Holy shit.
Number
Bro,
one,
they're going hard.
the
What?
Spirit.
Fun and unique power spirits. Go invisible and go a little bit faster. I don't know about that one. Like, I'm not saying, like, Spirit is pretty unique. Like, you rely on hearing. But, like, number 1? What? Hello?
In our original list of the best killers to play as, we put the Spirit at number 1. Unsurprisingly, Rin Yamaoka still sits at our top spot, and it's for the very same reasons we stated in that list.
Okay, I think it was before the rework. I don't know if you know that, but Spirit has been completely changed by now, and her power is also different, and there's a directional lullaby.
The Spirit leans heavily into DBD's horror side in terms of gameplay thanks to her unique power. Using Yamaoka's haunting lets her turn invisible and jump scare unsuspecting survivors. On top of that, she moves...
Okay, he might actually not know, but there's a directional not lullaby, there's a directional phasing sound whenever you face, and you will not surprise people, because they can hear where you're coming from and that you're coming. I guess... Yeah, well, I mean, you're not really surprised people.
Speed that by the time you hear her sounds, she's already behind you.
Nah, that's not true. It's
the Spirit
really not that
is
fast.
by far the scariest and toughest killer to go against, and it is what makes her the most fun to go against and play as.
Okay, that's a wild statement. Scariest? I don't see it, no. Like, you can't really... I don't know, there are actually jump scare killers in Dead by Daylight. But Spirit is definitely not one of them. And she's also, like, she's still strong, but she's nowhere near the strongest killer in the game anymore.
Very rarely do killers integrate an element of true horror into their mechanics, and Spirit shows that approach and creativity beautifully.
What? How?
Which killer do you like to play the most? Survivors, who would you say is the killer you struggle with the most?
So, well, that's an interesting list. Demogorgon is not even on here. Very, very interesting. When it comes to best design, I think someone like Demogorgon definitely deserves to be at least... I think I would definitely put him in the top 10. Wesker, unknown, very low down. Very interesting list. This is obviously from the point of someone who's probably really casual. It's always interesting to see when your opinions are not that refined. Doesn't mean you're necessarily wrong, but it was very interesting. All right, thanks so much for watching. That was Watch Mojo's tier list. Very interesting stuff. Was fun reacting to it, and see you guys next time.